She gets to the heart of whatever the subject is, which is usually a feeling, an emotion.
Marcia's contribution to children's music is beyond enormous. She's a pioneer.
Her values of peace and respecting people of many cultures has been very much in the folk tradition, but especially she's brought it into the years following, you know, the old folk songs and so on. She's carried it forth now.
There's a simplicity without being simplistic, you know, that basic kind of, the emphasis is on the children and what children can do with the song rather than, here's my great song.
If somebody said, you may have one wish in all the world, it wouldn't be for world peace. It would be to have Marcia's voice. The heck with world peace.
I'm not small, I'm so tall, I can carry a dinosaur on my back. I'm not small, I'm so tall, I can carry a dinosaur on my back.
Marcia Berman entered the world in 1932. Her singing career began at an early age.
I was 3 years old and sang at the National Theater, and I was dressed up like a daisy. I still remember the song I sang. It was, take me where the daisies cover the country lane. We'll make love while the sun shines. We'll make love while it rains. Totally inappropriate song for a little 3-year-old to be singing, but I guess I grew up loving to get up and perform and dance. And with our big family celebrations, the adults were always so busy talking to one another that the only way we could really get their attention was by putting on a little show. And they were just so appreciative when we came back in, and they would applaud, and they would. So I think maybe I got used to applause at a very early age. I must have decided this is really a way to go.
In addition to the encouragement of her father and mother, Marcia also was influenced at a young age by her first political experience.
When I joined the Hashomer Hatzair, I must have been about 11 years old in Boyle Heights, and we did a lot of singing. And that's probably my first introduction to folk music and political songs and Hebrew songs and some Yiddish songs. And so that was a wonderful experience. I mean, I just loved it.
There was a man and
I was inspired by folk music. I listened to it for hours, and many of the folk singers also, that Pete Seeger and Murray and Miranda at the time were inspirational. Malvina Reynolds was a very big influence. In the early 50s, I was singing folk music with friends. And some of the people that were singing with me, Frank Hamilton, Guy Carawan sometimes when he came into town, Odetta, Felius, Sid Berlin, Jimmy Gavin, Dave Zaitlin. My parents felt that I should be a school teacher. That would be much more respectable. And that singing was something that nice Jewish girls did not do, especially in coffee houses and bars, that kind of thing. Frank and I did a concert at the Los Feliz Jewish Community Center, and my grandmother was in the audience, and I was very nervous. I remember my guitar was out of tune, and I remember handing the guitar to Frank, and he just tuned it while we were singing something. He just tuned it and handed it back to me. I asked my grandmother what she thought of the show, and she really liked it. She said, "But you really need to learn how to tune your own guitar." I became a kindergarten teacher, and at the time, it was expected that teachers would play the piano, and I was having a problem playing the piano and reading music. So I started making up my own songs. And I think that was just kind of a fortunate break, in a way. I'm Not Small came about when I happened to be taking my cousin Nancy to visit UCLA. She must have been about 6 years old at the time, and I was telling her, someday, Nancy, you're going to go to school here when you're a big girl. And that must have been kind of frightening to her. It's kind of a stupid thing to say to a little child who's 6 years old. And she said, "You know what? I'm so big I could carry a house on my back." And I thought, what a wonderful idea for a song. And so I made up the song about carrying things on your back that were big, you know, huge, tree or the Empire State Building or whatever. And the children loved this song. And then I realized that it had a lot of meaning to young children who oftentimes lack having any power.
I'm not small, I'm so tall, I can carry 2 dogs on my back. What do dogs do? And when they all too, that's not very hard to do.
Marcia had met Jerry McCabe while at UCLA. They married and sang at their own wedding. In 1956, they became the proud parents of Hallie.
I stayed home for quite a while and did some freelance work, and I taught guitar in the home. And I was doing a radio program on KPFK, which was also broadcast, repeated in Berkeley and in New York. I also taught a workshop at the Ash Grove. We had a little music workshop incorporating a lot of movement, so the children did not just sit there and sing. They would get up and move around, and it would be very interactive. They had a lot of ideas and they could participate.
There are a lot of wonderful people who write a lot of terrific songs, but you can't always use them with kids. They're sort of performance songs, or you could listen to records and they're wonderful, or CDs. Nobody has records anymore. But the idea of a song as a working tool and reaching way in, you know, there's one song in particular that I've used for years and years and years. That's Mouse in My House. And a teacher once told me that he found out more about his kids from that song than any other single way, just because they saw it as their way of telling their story. You know, so I guess that's what it is, enables kids to tell their stories.
Marcia's second album began as a demo tape, recorded in her living room with Guy Carawan.
I went to New York and took that tape with me and met Moash, who was the owner of Folkways Records. And he was a very imposing guy to meet. He had put out a great catalog of music at that time. And he took the tape from my hands. I was standing there while he went into a sound booth. He listened to a few seconds and zip, went to another few seconds and zip, and that was it. He was finished. And he walked out and he said, "I'll take it." So I thought it meant that I was going to get to record the songs. So I asked him when I would be recording. He said, "No, I'll buy this." I said, "But this was made in my living room." He said, "Would you forsake the spontaneity?" He said, "No, this is what we'll use. We'll go with this." After having been a soloist for many, many years, I joined up with Mike Janis, and he had a group called West Wind. And we were doing music from different cultures. We were also doing some civil rights music. We were also doing some Americana, you know, studying about the Shakers. And it was a pretty exciting group to be a part of.
In the 60s, Marcia married Mallory Pierce. In 1967, they made the decision to adopt twin boys, Peter and James.
I'm following my handsome boy.
You can just tell they've been raised with love and gentleness and kindness, and that's Marcia.
Along with parenting, Marcia managed to continue her career growth. A major milestone was creating a partnership with Patty Zaitlin.
I looked at her as kind of a star. I was a preschool teacher, and I selected very carefully the music that I provided for the children. Among them were albums by Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, Ella Jenkins, and Sam Hinton, and Marcia.
A friend of Patty's wanted Marcia to hear the songs Patty had written.
My friend pushed me physically up to Marcia Berman with her hand on my back and said, "You are going to sing for her."
I hadn't heard songs that good since Woody Guthrie and Malvina Reynolds. I mean, These, I knew the minute I heard these songs that they needed to be out there in the world, and so I encouraged her to record them, and then I said, well, wait a minute, I'll do it with you.
We made our first album with wonderful Frank Hamilton.
I don't like you, I don't like you, I don't like you today.
One of my songs that was in that collection is the Angry Song, and I think that's one of the best songs that I've written. And controversial song. It's probably the only controversial song that I've ever written.
John Bacchino first became their musical arranger on Everybody Cries Sometimes and was involved in many other successful projects.
Room in the Boat, that was exciting because it turned out that later Pete Seeger and Arlo Guthrie sang that song in a tribute to Phil Oakes.
As we made each album, we were beginning to get our own style of how we do things, and it was eclectic. We had all these different musical styles. We could have blues music, we could have square dancing music, we could have an old traditional folk song type. So that became part of the way we like to work, and always bringing in new musicians on each album. On the fifth album, we collaborated with Ann Barlin, and that album was Rainy Day Songs, Rainy Day Dances. I wrote Hello Rain, and Ann Barlin did a choreography for Hello Rain, which we have used many, many times with children and parents, and children and parents together, and workshops with adults. I just really like this song.
Marcia and Ann Barlin then produced two multicultural albums.
By the time we made the second album, Cloud Journeys, we had made the commitment, and I was determined not to try and sing in all these different languages. I had met Ernest Siva, and I met his aunt, Catherine Sobel. Patty and I had been in Hawaii, and we had met Nona Beamer, and we had become friends with the Georgia Sea Island singers, Bessie Jones and Frankie and Doug Quimby. Young children hearing it could pick it up so much more easily from the original language than having to hear me do it with an accent.
She's extremely perceptive, but always in an extremely positive way. She seems never to see anything bad about you. She's always looking for the positive. And she's a wonderful person to be with for that reason.
Marcia and some of her friends felt there was more they could do for children's music if they organized.
Camel was our very first effort to start an organization of children's singers and writers and performers. CAMAL, children's artists making a living, which of course was not true at all. But when you look back on Camel, it was the beginning of the Children's Music Network.
Children's Music Network is a group of artists and parents and teachers and children, people in the music industry, and people who want to see children have quality music, and music that has to do with peace and justice and the environment, and multi-ethnic music, and music that has to do with self-confidence, help children feel good about who they are and expressing their feelings. And all of this music is similar to the music that I had been researching, collecting, writing, and so it was a natural to be a part of it.
In the 1980s, 6 artists from Camel, including Marcia, created a Hanukkah show at the suggestion of Darlene Daniels of Pages and Sharon Hearn of Children's Book World.
At that time, there wasn't anything that Jewish families could come to, and other people also that were interested could come and hear a total program about the holiday.
In the early 80s, Marcia discovered Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and with Carol Cutler, started the first local peace camp.
It was a multi-ethnic camp, and I realized how isolated we are from different cultures. But this camp, in order to work, in order to have that be a part of the curriculum, to respect differences, we really had to have children come from different ethnic groups and cultural groups. And so we were able to do that, and it's such a rewarding experience.
I think she's a person really dedicated to seeing that children have the best and that there's peace, you know, for our children. A peaceful world, and one in which people can express love and other feelings and communicate trustingly and lovingly with each other, all kinds of people, and share music and creative things. And this is something I know she values, and she puts her life where her values are. That's what she does.
So many people used her as a mentor. So many people were guided and inspired by the way she did children's music. She's been my friend for so many years. It's fun to be doing this, talking about her, because when you do that, you realize how much you love somebody, and I love her a lot.
There's a lot of people that have leaped on the old bandwagon in this business and in singing and performing for kids. And there's only really, I consider, just maybe a couple handfuls of them that have this real genuine quality that they just love children. And it just comes through in their writing and in their work and their voices.
Everybody seems to know who Marcia Berman is. There may be a few remote countries in Australia, you know, little islands here and there in the world that don't know her, but we'll change that.
I'm not small, I'm so tall, I can carry a house on my back. I'm not small, I'm so tall, I can carry a house on my back. And when I laugh, it will shake. If I drop it, it might break. I'm not small, I'm so tall, I can carry a house on my back.